Every chess player, whether you're 900 or 1900, has blind spots or weaknesses in their game that, if you were able to fix, would make you a much better chess player. The problem for a lot of people is that they don't know exactly what those blind spots are or how to find them. Well, in this video, I'm going to give you a step-by-step process that you can follow to figure out exactly what your weak spots are. I'm going to be using myself as an example and showing you some of my games as I try to improve so you can see exactly how this process works. This video does come with the Chess Vibes money back guarantee, so if you're not completely satisfied for any reason at the end of the video, just leave a comment letting me know. I'll be happy to refund you every penny that you paid. Having said that, let's get started. Alright, so the first thing you're going to need to be able to figure out your blind spots is a set of games that you can go through and analyze. So I play on chess.com, so I'm on chess.com. That's where I'm going to find my games. For you, whatever site you play most on where you have a decent set of games, that's where you need to go. Now, before I pull up the games, I want to do one thing. I'm going to bring over an Excel spreadsheet. You guys know I love to use Excel spreadsheets to analyze chess data. So I'm going to make 3 columns: game number, mistake, and game URL. And this is what I'm going to use as I go through my games and find mistakes. I'm going to store everything here so that I can easily find it and sort it and do whatever I want with it later. Okay, so this is how I recommend you do it. Feel free to tweak this if you would like, but this is what I'm going to do. So we'll come back to this Excel spreadsheet in just a little bit. Now, on chess.com, I'm going to click on games. I'm going to scroll down and click on this little arrow. This is going to take me over to where I have all my games. You can see I've played 7,000. And now over here on the right, I'm going to filter. Now this is important. You need to choose what type of game you're going to be analyzing. So for example, I don't play the same in Bullet as I do in Blitz, as I do in Rapid, right? Everything's going to be different. So choose what time control you want to get better at. For me, I'm going to choose Rapid. I would like to improve in my Rapid. So I'm going to filter these games based on Rapid. Live games, and then where it says all live types, I'm going to check that, and I'm going to select Rapid. And I'm also going to go down, I don't think you can see it on the screen, but I'm just going to check rated games. Oh, one more thing. I'm also going to do where it says result. I'm going to select games that I lost. The reason I'm doing games that I lost is because if I lost the game, it's guaranteed to have at least one major mistake, maybe more. If I won the game, there's a chance I just played really well and didn't really make too many mistakes. So I'm interested in seeing my blind spots, so I'm going to choose games that I lost. All right, so let's go click search. And now you can see we've got 41 games, rated games, rapid games that I lost. All right, now I'm going to simply click the middle mouse button on each of these games and just go down the list and click a whole bunch of them. And it's opening new tabs in my browser right now. So I have all these different games opened in new tabs. And I'm going to go select one. I just picked a random one, but I'm going to go through all of them. And I'll close this and I'll click the analysis button. You can't really see it. It's a little bit off the screen, but analysis basically just pulls up over here where it turns on the engine so I can kind of see what the engine is saying about the position. I like to use that. I'm also going to pay attention to this analysis bar as we go through. Now, for a lot of people, this is the most difficult step in this whole process. They go through their games and yes, they can see when the computer tells them it was a blunder, but other than that, they really don't know how to find mistakes. So I'm going to give you a list of the things that I look for specifically when I'm going through these games to know if I need to work on something or not. So number one is opening. In the opening, I asked myself a couple questions. Number one, did I feel comfortable in the opening? Was I prepared, or was I completely out of my comfort zone? Did I fall for an opening trap? Did I just get into a terrible position right away? Those are the kind of questions that I want to find out. And if I didn't have a good opening, I'm going to record that in the spreadsheet. So in this game, let's just go quickly and see how does it look. Okay, so this is an opening that I've played before. I'm fairly comfortable with this. And so I would say, opening was pretty much fine. Engine is saying everything is equal. Don't see any problems there. So I'm going to say opening is fine. So next phase of the game is the middle game, which I would say we are in right now. I'm looking for blunders, obviously. So if there's any just tactical mistakes that immediately lead to me being at a disadvantage, I'm going to record that. And I'm going to be specific. So if I fell victim to a fork or a pin or a discovered attack, or if it was some sort of pattern, I want to make sure that I write that down. Because maybe I struggle with forks a lot, or whatever. You want to make sure you write it down. Also, strategic decisions. So like, here's an example where I decided to not castle and push this H pawn. Well, that's a decision that I made, and if it turns out really bad for some reason, like maybe I get in trouble from the rook here, I'm gonna make a note of that, and maybe that's what goes in my spreadsheet. I'm not saying that guaranteed. I'm just saying these are the things that I look for as I go through my games. Another thing that I like to pay attention to is whenever pieces are traded. Did I do anything wrong, or was it fine? So sometimes you have a very aggressive position and you simplify the position by trading everything off, and then you end up losing in the end game. Maybe it was a bad decision to trade. Those are the kind of things you want to pay attention to. Okay, so let's keep going. I haven't seen any major mistakes. Okay, that was a small mistake, so I'm gonna probably keep going. Okay, knight h3 was pretty much not good. And that was really bad. So, and then here we're basically in trouble. We're minus 5.7. So really, right here when I played knight h3, it was a series of moves: f3, g4. Those three moves really did me in, right? You see the bar, minus 5.7. As far as I'm concerned, that's what lost me the game. So now that I know that, I'm going to go back and analyze this a little bit more to figure out what exactly was it about these moves that was bad, and record that in my spreadsheet so that I can see if this is some sort of a pattern, right? If this is a blind spot in my game. So knight h3. So first of all, what was the move that I should have played? So a takes b5, so a takes, rook takes, queen takes, and knight f3. So kind of just trading off some things in normal development. Okay, so knight f3 is a very normal developing move. Knight h3 is kind of not really following a principle, putting my knight on the rim. So that's okay, one thing there. And then what happened next? Still, we're not that far behind. So this was another bad move. Okay, creating weaknesses around my king, right? These dark squares are very weak. Let's see what else. What happened here? G4 was particularly bad. Really bad. Okay. So I did quite a few moves that weakened my king and just neglected development. I neglected development and I created weaknesses around my king. So I'm going to say that's the main issue here. So I'm going to go back to my spreadsheet and I'm going to say game number 1. And I'm going to say neglecting development, creating weaknesses around king, and not castling. And I'm going to go back to the browser and I'm going to copy the URL of the game at the top and I'm going to just put it in here. And so if I need to get to this game later, I can just copy this and it'll take me right there. Okay, so that's my first game. All right, so that's game number 1, and now I'm going to do the same thing for all of these other games, and I recommend that you do a minimum of 20 games, and the more the better, because the more games you look at, the better the data is going to be. But I understand it's a very time-consuming process, and so if you don't have the time, you can probably stop at 20. So what I'm going to do is go analyze 19 more of my games. After I have 20, I'll come back and we'll keep going with the process. Hey guys, welcome back. So I have analyzed 19 more of my games and I now have 20 games analyzed along with all the mistakes, and I have the URLs over here. So the next step is to go through and figure out what the most common mistakes are. Now there's a couple of ways you can do this. Number 1, you can just kind of look through and you might be able to tell just by looking what the most common issue is. In my case, I can. Now if you couldn't tell that for some reason, what I would recommend you do is find a particular phrase, so like in this case time trouble, and copy that, and you can do a Control F, and if you search for that phrase you can do find all, and it'll tell you how many times it finds that. So in this case time trouble was found 9 times, and out of 20 games that's almost half. So and I could see that just from looking at it. That was by far my biggest issue, time trouble. So what I would do, and you guys have seen my videos, well, let me just go ahead and hide this cell for now. What I would probably do is just you know, do something like top mistakes over here, and then I would kind of, you know, fill in whatever. So time trouble would be 1, and I would do the percentages and put a percentage there. So like, you know, 9 out of 20, just so I can see 45% of the time. And then the other one that I think I noticed was opening knowledge. So I'm gonna go ahead and do Control F again. I'm gonna type in opening, find all. 5 times we had opening knowledge. Okay, so lack of opening knowledge. 5 out of 20, I'll put that in here. Weaknesses around the king, tactics. So I'm gonna just do a check. Let's say weakness 3 times. Let's say tactics 2 times. Okay. Now I can see, okay, in half of my games, I'm getting into time trouble. I mean, that's pretty crazy. And by the way, some of these, like these 3 here, were from when I was doing a simul, so kind of throws off the data a little bit. But even if you take that out, there's other games where I'm just getting into time trouble. A lot of these I was doing while streaming, and so that's part of it. I'm explaining my thought process, and I'm not moving fast enough. So what this tells me is this is a blind spot for me. This is an area that if I work on this, I can potentially win almost half of my games that I'm losing by fixing one mistake, right? That's huge. This is huge. And I knew it was a problem. I just didn't realize it was in almost half of my games. Like, that's crazy. Half the games I'm losing. And, you know, I'm actually winning some games when I'm low on time that aren't included in this data. So I know it's an even bigger issue from that. Lack of opening knowledge. 25% is significant. 1 in 4 games, I'm getting into trouble because I don't know the opening lines well enough. Very helpful to know that. And the weaknesses around my king, I have to be a little more careful. And I know I play very aggressively, so I would do well to pay a little bit more attention to my king. All right, so hopefully after you have gone through your games, analyzed them like I've shown, you can come up with a list of mistakes that will help you know where to focus. And if I were you, I would spend most of my time at whatever's at the top of the list and work your way down. And that is going to have the biggest impact on helping you improve as a chess player. Well, hey, let me know in the comments what your biggest mistakes were. And if you found this video helpful, remember, if you didn't learn anything and you want your money back, let me know in the comments. I'll be happy to refund you. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay sharp, play smart, take care.